Dad once told me, straight-faced across our dining table, your brother deserves it. The house, the cash, the entire family company. He handed it all to Ryan. Like I'd never spent 15 years holding that place together. I walked away that night with nothing but my car and my pride. This morning, after 2 years of silence, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. Mortgage is due. Can we talk? I almost laughed until the second message appeared because whatever they were hiding, whatever they were afraid of, had my name written all over it. My name is Cheryl Patterson, and I used to think love and sweat could outweigh blood and tradition. I was wrong. We grew up in a big white colonial on a cul-de-sac outside Boston, the kind of house that made strangers slow their cars and smile. My grandfather had built it with profits from the construction firm he started in a 2-car garage after the war. To the neighborhood, we were legacy in brick and shutters. Inside, the rules were simpler. Ryan was the sun. The rest of us just orbited. When he turned 5, Dad had the crew spend an entire spring building him a 2-story playhouse with real windows and a working doorbell. My 12th birthday present that same year was $25 at the local bookstore and a sheet cake with grocery store roses. Mom smoothed my hair and whispered, "Your father comes from a different time." That different time kept showing up. High school honors for me, parent-teacher conferences for Ryan's detentions, my double major in business and construction management versus his eventual degree in communications after 3 false starts. None of it changed the gravity. I came home after graduation convinced competence would finally tip the scale. I learned every inch of the company bid packages, change orders, lien waivers, the way certain foremen took their coffee. Ryan got a title he couldn't T-spell and a leased BMW he dented twice in the first month. I told myself the numbers would eventually speak louder than chromosomes. A $40 million medical center started circling the drain under Ryan's leadership. He took a 3-week trip to Cabo while the schedule bled red. I lived on site for 6 straight weeks, sleeping in my truck some nights, renegotiating every subcontract, sweet-talking inspectors, and dragging the job across the finish line 48 hours early. The client pulled me into a bear hug in the lobby and told the whole room, "Cheryl saved our asses." Dad walked in, heard the praise, clapped Ryan on the shoulder and said, "That's how Patterson men get it done." I smiled until my face hurt, then went to the parking lot and threw up. The final night came disguised as celebration. Mom called it a family announcement dinner. I showed up with a bottle of 30-year Macallan, stupidly excited. Dad raised his glass, looked only at my brother, and declared Ryan the sole heir to the company, the real estate, the investment portfolios, everything Grandpa and I had spent decades protecting. To me, he offered 3 months severance and the keys I was already holding. I set the scotch on the table untouched, walked out, and never went back. By dawn, I was on a plane to Chicago with whatever fit in 2 suitcases and the company car I left in long-term parking out of spite. Chicago didn't care who my father was. The city was cold, loud, and fair. I rented a walk-up in Logan Square, hung the only photo I brought Grandpa. Leaning against his first pickup hand, started cold-calling developers. Like a rookie all over again. Most hung up, some laughed. A few gave me a shot. 1 renovation rescue turned into 3, then 8. Then a waitlist. I hired 2 women who'd been pushed out of their own family firms. We named the company Second Draft Consulting because every site and every life deserves one. For the first time, my last name was just a signature, not a verdict. Then the breadcrumbs started arriving from Boston. A neighbor I hadn't spoken to in years emailed a photo of our overgrown front yard and a note that my parents had let the country club membership lapse. A retiring estimator warned me Ryan had fired half the office to cut costs. Subcontractors texted about 60-day-old invoices. A former project manager sent a voice memo that ended, "We're going to lose the bonding capacity. Cheryl. It's bad." I read every message, felt the old ache rise, and kept scrolling. Not my circus anymore. Until the night a burner number forwarded me a group chat of unpaid superintendents calculating how many more weeks the doors could stay open. The last line read, "Someone tell Cheryl before it's too late." I didn't sleep. Tuesday morning, I was knee-deep in a takeoff when Mom's text lit up my phone like a flare. "Mortgages overdue. Can we talk?" The house had been paid off since before I had a driver's license. I typed the only thing that felt honest. "Talk to your son." The gray bubbles danced, vanished, danced again. "Cheryl, please, we're drowning. Your father's pride won't let him say it, but we need you." I turned the phone face down and went back to my numbers. An hour later, another buzz. This time, a single photo. The marble foyer of the house I grew up in cracked straight through the middle like someone dropped something unforgivable. Underneath, 3 words from my mother, "We were wrong." I stared at the fracture until the screen went black, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt something sharper than anger. I felt the ground shift under them, and I hadn't decided yet whether I was going to offer a hand or watch them fall. My phone lit up with his name for the third time in 10 minutes. Dad, I let it ring until the screen went black. A minute later, the voicemail chime followed. I should have deleted it unheard, but curiosity or maybe the last fraying thread of old habit made me press play. Cheryl. His voice cracked on the second syllable. The way it never had, not even the day Mom's cancer came back negative. I know I burned every bridge with you. I know what I said about Ryan deserving it all. I was wrong. The business, it's drowning, we're out of moves. I'm sorry, but we need you. The apology landed like a slap. After 34 years of never once hearing I need, suddenly he was begging. I felt something cold bloom in my chest, not pity, but recognition. Finally, the tables had turned so hard they splintered. I called back at midnight. Before you say another word, I told him everything comes out. Every loan, every overdue invoice, every personal expense Ryan tried to bury in the books. I see it all, or I'm not coming. A long exhale rattled through the speaker. Come to the house, he said, sounding a decade older than he had 6 months ago. It's all here. I didn't say yes. I just hung up. Booked the first flight to Boston out of O'Hare and threw clothes into a carry-on while the city still slept. Friday afternoon, I touched down at Logan. The December wind off the harbor cut straight through my coat. But it felt cleansing, like it was scraping off the last of the girl who used to fly home, hoping this time they'd de-notice her. I drove myself north. The suburbs looked smaller than memory allowed, the mansions set back behind dying hedges. When I turned onto their street, the house hit me like a punch I'd been waiting years to take. Peeling paint, sagging gutters, a for sale by bank sign leaning crooked in the frozen grass. Dad's F250 was gone, repossessed, probably. The kingdom had already started crumbling before I even arrived. I walked in without ringing the bell. The foyer smelled of old paper and panic. They were all waiting in the den like a family portrait someone had set on fire. Mom perched on the edge of the sofa, wringing a tissue to shreds. Dad stood by the window, back to me, shoulders curved inward like he was trying to make himself smaller. Ryan sprawled in Dad's old leather chair, sun-kissed and sulking, thumbs flicking across his phone as if the world still revolved around his notifications. Mom saw me first. Share, not yet, I said gently, and she folded back into silence. Dad turned. The lines around his eyes had deepened into trenches. Thank you for coming. It got bad faster than... I'll look first, I cut in, dropping my bag on the coffee table, already buried under avalanche of documents. Then we talk. I started flipping foreclosure warnings, second mortgages, lines of credit maxed out, and then maxed again. Vendor liens, a stack of boarding passes and hotel receipts clipped together under Ryan's name-ass pen. Cabo, Vegas every. One of them coded as business development. I held one up. 4 nights at the Breakers, 2 spa couples packages. Which client did you close over cucumber facials, Ryan? His mouth opened, closed. Networking isn't free. Networking also isn't supposed to bankrupt the company, I said. Dad tried again. Cheryl, please. I kept going. Personal guarantee on a $500,000 equipment, loan signed in Dad's shaking handwriting. Retirement accounts rated. Employees' health insurance premiums 3 months behind. I looked up. You put the house up as collateral for a bridge loan you never intended to bridge. Dad's voice came out a whisper. We thought the spring contracts would come through. They didn't, I said. And now 47 families are one missed payroll away from disaster because you kept handing the keys to someone who only knew how to crash. Ryan finally stood. This is bullshit. You waltz in here after running away to Chicago? I didn't run, I said, calm enough that the room chilled. I was told in writing that everything I built belonged to you. I decided not to keep polishing silver for someone who already sold it out from under me. Silence so thick it hurt. Dad rubbed the back of his neck. What will it take, Cheryl? We need a turnaround plan. The bank wants blood. If you came back maybe as CFO. No, I said. I'm not coming back as anything less than the one who gets the final say. Ryan laughed, ugly. You're delusional. I ignored him and looked straight at Dad. I want 51% controlling interest. Ryan steps away from all financial and operational authority today. I picked the executive team. Every penny gets my signature. You stay on as advisors if and only if you can stay in your lanes. Those are the terms. Mom made a small wounded sound. Ryan's face went scarlet. Over my dead body? This is my legacy. Your legacy is currently owned by First Republic Bank, I said, sliding the mortgage statement across the table so he could see the red ink for himself. I'm the only one offering a lifeboat. Take it or don't. Dad looked at Mom. Mom looked at the floor. Ryan kept shaking his head like a toddler told no. Dad reached for the folder their lawyer had apparently left ready because, of course, they hoped it wouldn't come to this, but they'd prepared anyway. He opened it to the transfer agreements, already notarized, just waiting for signatures. He signed first, pen scratching loud in the quiet room. Mom's hand trembled so badly she left little ink blots, but she signed too. The pen rolled to Ryan. He stared at it like it was poison. "This is theft," he spat. "No," I said. "This is consequences. You just never thought they'd be yours," he signed. I watched the ink dry, and for the first time in my life, the house didn't feel like it was suffocating me. It felt like the doors had finally swung open. I closed the folder. Meeting with the bank Monday morning, I said, standing, "Ryan, your corporate cards are canceled as of now. Keys to the boat and the condo stay with me. Mom, Dad, I'll have someone here tomorrow to start digitizing 20 years of chaos. And Ryan, start looking for a job that doesn't come with a company Amex." I picked up my bag. "Oh, and one more thing," I added, pausing in the doorway. "The sign out front comes down this week. The house isn't for sale anymore." I walked out into the cold, got behind the wheel, and for the first time in 34 years, I didn't feel like I was running away. I was finally driving toward something that was mine. I didn't ride in on a white horse to rescue the family empire. I came back, covered in dust and resentment, armed with nothing but a laptop and the stubborn refusal to let 47 families lose everything because of one man's ego. The first weeks were brutal. I was on site at 5:30 a.m., coffee going cold in my hand while superintendent's ID, known since childhood, stared at me like I was a ghost. They wanted to believe I could fix it, but they'd watched Ryan burn through cash and credibility for years. Trust wasn't given. It had to be earned, one corrected invoice at a time. Nights belonged to spreadsheets and autopsy reports, figuring out exactly where the money had vanished and why no one had stopped it. I sat alone in Dad's old office, surrounded by ghosts of better days, rewriting processes Ryan had treated like suggestions. Vendors who'd been stiffed for months listened when I called, not because the company name still carried weight, but because it was me on the line, my word, my promise, my personal guarantee I'd make it right. I brought back the people he'd discarded like dead weight. Martin walked through the door first, shoulders less tense than I'd ever seen them. A quiet nod that said more than any thank you. Dolores showed up 2 days later, wrapped me in a hug that nearly cracked my ribs, and whispered, "We never stopped believing in you." That almost broke me more than the bankruptcy notices had. We built new bones for a broken body. Open books, hard deadlines, contracts that actually got read before anyone signed, quality inspections no one could bribe or bully away. Ryan stayed on barely. I clipped his wings, clients and handshakes only. No company cards, no signature authority, no more playing CEO. Some days he pouted like a child sent to the corner. Some days he showed up and did the work. I stopped caring which version I got. Month 4, the hemorrhaging slowed. Month 6, we hit 0. Month 9, 2 old clients crept back, testing the water with small jobs, half expecting the old chaos. When the first profitable quarter finally flashed green on the screen, my father rang, no lecture, no tears, just for words. "You pulled it off. That was enough." My parents sold the big house on the hill, moved into something modest near the hardware store Dad used to drag me to as a kid. They looked smaller, but freer, like people who'd finally set down baggage they didn't know they were carrying. I stayed long enough to hire a gray-haired operations chief who'd forgotten more about construction than I'll ever know. Then I handed him the keys to Boston and caught the last flight home to Chicago. My corner office there no longer felt like exile. It felt like headquarters. One night, city lights glittering below me, my phone lit up. "Mom, thank you for saving everything we built." I stared at the screen a long time before typing back. It was never about saving the past. It was about refusing to let it ruin the future. The company survived, sure, but the real triumph wasn't the profit line turning black again. It was proving I belonged in this story on my own terms, not as the prodigal daughter begging for scraps of approval, but as the one willing to do the ugly, unglamorous work of cleaning up someone else's mess. I didn't come back for applause or forgiveness. I came back because 47 paychecks, 47 mortgages, 47 kids' braces and college funds were more important than my pride or theirs. Some of us only find our voice after the door has been slammed in our face. Some of us have to rebuild the house just to prove we were always meant to live in it. If you've ever had to fight your way back into a place that once pushed you out, if you've ever saved something that never bothered to save you, drop your story below. I read every single one, and if this one hit close to home, stick around. There's more where that came from.